When you betray the ideal version of yourself. I thought I was this, but turns out I'm not. Where do you go from that? The world can be such a dynamic place, and we individuals derive a lot of self assurance from I like this, I like that, I don't do well with this, I will do very well with that. But as we live on, we find out these things are very unreliable. This seems to be a very normal event to occur if you are someone who is on a journey of self improvement and self awareness or following any of such techniques. You know that we are ever changing. How can one then make decisions that sinks its claws into the future and can ensure our happiness? A knowledge that we are ever changing and an acceptance that we are ever changing are two different things. One can read multiple books, yet only have a thing or two penetrate the deep levels of their subconscious and actually be a changed man. Most of us take these thoughts or as quotes or piece of literature and don't take the time necessarily to let it sink in the fact that we are ever changing individuals. Now, the only way that dissatisfaction can come into a person's life is when they are too attached to the idea of themselves, of the idea of whom they thought they were. I am a good person. I can do no wrong. Wrong is done onto me by others, and the others who wrong me are wrong. They are monsters. We don't want to associate negative things with ourselves. We want to think that we are good people. So, most of our life, we live totally ignorant of these true aspects of ourselves because we want to associate ourselves with a certain things according to our moral map. And that isn't necessarily evil, but mostly a recipe for dissatisfaction and lagged realization that the life that you created for yourself, well, is no longer serving you. So, we have a problem. What is the solution? There are 7 levels to it. Integration, realizing who you are to begin with through integration. Otherwise, there will always be a you that you don't know. According to Carl Jung, the mind has fragmented itself to live a socially acceptable life. An individual puts on a mask, a persona, to be a socially acceptable creature. In this process, he shoves parts of himself that he feels are not socially acceptable or necessarily good. And these parts that have been discarded form a shadow. Shadow you can understand as all the aspects of you that are still there in your subconscious, but you're not aware of them. While integration is a huge concept, a basic leeway to that is understanding all those aspects of you that you have shoved away and growing awareness around it, observing yourself and understanding where all you subconsciously react to situations. Non attachment to the idea of you. So that when new knowledge reveals itself to us, we are not in this pit of, I didn't know I was that. I never thought I could be that. That is being able to accept one's own unraveling. People should be open to new discoveries, not just about the people around them, but within themselves as well. Acceptance of your personality or non judgment. How would you nurture a child who is just beginning to understand how his legs and hands work, who's just beginning to understand the basis of morality and the concepts of society, calmness, patience, and understanding? And that you should do with yourselves, dealing with the aspects that you don't want to show. So, integration involves looking at your shadow, doing shadow work, understanding all the things that you have shoved away from your main personality, and then integrating all those aspects within you so that they can see the light of the day. But there will come things that you don't want to show to other people. There will be things that, well, might not be particularly beneficial in the current scenario. Just because your outspokenness in us is unacceptable by the others doesn't mean you can't find a place to showcase it or integrate it within yourself. There is you, and then there are your goals that you want to achieve. Imagine a scenario. I'm a very emotional person. Growing up, I had to learn how to shove away my emotions and not deal with them. Kind of parents didn't allow a crybaby. Now I've come to the realization that I still do it, but I grow resentful to the other person who is making me want to do that. When I integrate this into my personality, I cry during confrontations with my boss. Emotions should not be met with judgment. Feeling shame for crying comes only when you don't know why it happened. Why such a small thing has made you have such a emotional reaction towards it. Shadow work brings more compassion from you towards these aspects of you that have not seen the light of the day. As the process is gradual and most of it will be done by you for the first time, the moment you realize certain shadow aspects that lies within you, integrating them would be a long process. And so you will take time just to first realize that these aspects lie within you dormant, just to accept that a part of you feels emotional and wants an outlet to express that it has felt emotional, it has its feelings has been hurt. Slowly you'll start understanding all the moments when that thing of you is triggered, and slowly you'll start realizing all those events, all those situations, and well, you'll develop a toolkit for how to manage yourself during those situations, because it will come up, but you will just have a better way to deal with it. Shame. You are a human, accept it. There will be times where you'll be weak, you'll need support, or you won't be able to accept the parts of you that, well, now you're aware of because you're doing a lot of shadow work. But shaming and throwing judgment toward these parts of you is not a path that we should take with it. Shadow should be approached not with anger, annoyance, or I don't know why you exist, but acceptance and patience and understanding that I know that you're a part of me. I know you are there because you saw things and you became this. How can you be mad at your own shadow? It is you. You can't discard parts of you. You can't just be rude to them or be angry towards them. They need your love. Change. Change is the only thing that's constant. When you're not attached to who you were or your lifestyle or the way you were doing things, it will be a lot more easier to accept when things doesn't work out for you anymore and you want to take some other path, some other route, some other course. You shouldn't resent such need for change. It's also a call for you to look within and understand that maybe you've not done as much work as you thought you have. A practical tip from myself to know how to identify your shadow or identify when you're subconsciously reacting to something. Identify your trigger points. Most of the times when you trigger, almost all of the time when you're triggered and you don't know why, it's your shadow acting up. When you see your insecurities being dragged in front of your eye and you jump to the need to defend yourself, that's when you know that your shadow is acting up. Triggers are a clear window to your inner world, to your subconscious. I know what it feels like when all that you know about yourself suddenly goes flying out of the window and you're left with the hollow feeling of who am I? But that's a good place to start. There's still hope. Trust me, there is. Just because a pebble has caused the water to ripple doesn't mean that it is still not the same still lake that was contained within that body. Many aspects of you that you feel like you no longer deserve to call you are still there in you. There's just a lot of distrust within you. You have to do this inner work to be able to deem yourself worthy of such high virtues or morals or a you that you thought you were before. Maybe you still have it. Maybe you're still that. Maybe you were right about thinking that you were that. But just because there's distrust that is growing here, you refuse to identify with it. You have to understand that there is still there. It is still there. You have to find it. But it would have made you more humble and compassionate towards the fellow humans. The understanding that even you are capable of doing things that you looked down on others for doing. Namaste.